Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Ships of Naval Action. Today we're going to take a look at a former ship of the line, but now a heavy frigate or a rasee frigate. We are taking a look at HMS Indefatigable, which started her life in 1780 when she was ordered and her keel was laid down in May 1781. She was completed in 1784, where she was never commissioned. She didn't get commissioned until 1794 when she was raseed, which is removing her upper gun deck, which was mounted with 9-pounders, I believe, when she was launched, or 12-pounders. That was just straight up removed, and she was converted into a frigate, where her new armament would keep the 24 guns, or 24-pounders of her originally design, and she would have 12-pounders on her quarterdeck and forecastle, and she would actually get some carronades, 42-pound carronades, heavy armament. So the Indefatigable, she would never serve as a ship of the line, and the reasoning for that is 64 gunners were going out of favor at the time. The French were no longer building 64 gunners. The Indefatigable was one of the last class of 64 gunners, with 64 gun ships of the line by the Royal Navy. Any 64 gunner would either be cut down to be a frigate, or they would mainly no longer serve in the line of battle. There are some exceptions, like HMS Agamemnon, which I believe, if I remember correctly, would in fact serve during the Battle of Trafalgar. However, they weren't really that popular anymore because they were just outgunned by 74 gunners and obviously first rates and similar. So they are a relic from the past. But converting them into heavy frigates was popular because the British, they didn't really build heavy frigates at the time. They had like some 18-pound frigates, but nothing 24-pounders. The French were building quite a few 24-pounders. You of course have the Americans with the Constitution and the United States and ships like that. So the British, to kind of make up for that difference, raseed the 64 gunners since they weren't used anymore and improved it. Or didn't improve it, but I mean, you could argue improved the 64 gunner because the 64 gunner didn't have a place. But of course, a rasee frigate with 24-pound guns did have a place against heavy frigates like USS Constitution. So the history of the Indefatigable herself. Well, she is a famous ship and she has a lot of successes. She has dozens of captures and destructions under her name, so we're not going to cover all of it. But under Sir Edward Pellew, she captured a bunch of ships between 1794 and 1804. She would capture dozens of ships. She had an encounter with a 74 gunner which ended up destroyed. I am not going to go through all of that. You can look you can look at the Wikipedia page. I will cover the big ones, which in fact does involve the 74 gunner. So there's two big engagements I will cover, and the first one is the action of 13th of January 1797, and I will keep it short. But two British frigates, the Indefatigable and the Amazon, would fight against the Droit de l'Homme, which was a 74-gun ship of the line in rough weather. And the British, well, had some luck. The Amazon, she would run into the shore, but the Droit de l'Homme was also driven into the shore. And that is essentially how the battle won. So two frigates fighting off against a ship of the line, that is not really a small feat. One thing to note though, because of the rough weather, and this is why the frigates were successful essentially, because of the rough weather, the French ship couldn't open her bottom gun ports, because a ship of the line, she has her bottom gun ports lower in the water. So in rough weather, depending on the ship exactly, well, you can't open the lower gun ports or you'll sink like the Vasa. So to avoid that, the French couldn't use a 36-pounders. That leaves, I believe, some 9-pounders and 18-pounders for the French ship, which essentially turns her into a frigate, except for armament and such, or armor essentially. We'll call it armor for simplicity. So the British had some advantage there, and without it, the British would have had a lot of a rougher time beating the French ship. The second famous event that I will cover is the action of the 5th of October 1804, one day before my birthday, and that is when the Indefatigable with a few other frigates, the Medusa, Lively, Amphion would intercept 4 Spanish frigates off of Cadiz before the Spanish joined the war against the British. And that was to capture a bunch of gold that the Spanish were bringing from the West Indies. So one thing too bad for the ships is the crew wouldn't partake in the prize money for the gold because they weren't at war yet. The British Admiralty or the British government would take the gold and keep it for themselves, but they did, I believe, get prize money for some of the ship's damage, which, you know, they got a small amount of money, but they would have been rich beyond imagination if they got prize money for the gold. During the battle, 3 of the Spanish frigates were captured. The Mercedes blew up, so they didn't get the loot from her, but still a significant amount of loot. Following this, until 1815, that's when the Indefatigable would be paid off. She would capture a bunch more ships. The Indefatigable was a really successful ship. 2 significant actions, one which brought the English crown a lot of Spanish gold, and afterwards the Spanish would join the war on the French side, of course. At the time there were murmurings of that happening anyways. But yeah, Indefatigable, a successful ship, you can sail her in naval action. So let's get to her in naval action. In naval action, the Indefatigable is a solid ship. She can carry 42-pound carronades on all the gun decks, 24-pound cannons on her bottom gun deck, or 12-pound on her weather deck. She has bow chasers, stern chasers, and she is all around a solid ship. She is not quite the level of the Constitution. The Constitution is bigger, has more structure and armor and such, but the Indefatigable, she has a solid amount, 24-pound guns, excellent. She is also slower than something like the Constitution due to her origins as a ship of the line. However, she does still have a decent amount of speed. Just not anything spectacular. Where she really shines is her cannons, 24-pound cannons. It's excellent. So, and she is a good looking ship if you ask me. So I could highly recommend the Indefatigable, just don't expect her to go one-on-one versus a Constitution or something like that. And other 24-pound frigates like the Endymion are faster than the Indefatigable. We of course also have the Diana, which is another 24-pound frigate. I believe the Diana is also faster. Yeah, but the Diana doesn't have as heavy of an armament, I believe, but she is faster, has similar hulls and all of that. Also a solid ship. So, Indefatigable, I highly recommend it. And I do hope you enjoyed this quick little video on her. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe and all of that, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye!